Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into something super cool today. Uh, it might totally change how you learn English.
Intriguing.
We're talking about stories and dialogues.
I see where we're going with this.
Yeah, and we found this awesome guide just packed with tips.
I bet it is.
I think it's going to be really insightful.
It's funny how we often forget that even just a good story can help us learn.
Right. We always think of stories for entertainment, but
Hmm.
this guide is saying stories are like secret weapons for learning a language.
Exactly. And one of the coolest things it talk about is contextual learning.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, you know how it's hard to remember words from a list?
Oh, tell me about it.
But when you see that same word in a story, it suddenly makes sense.
Because you see it in action.
Right. You understand it from what's happening around it.
Gotcha. So instead of just memorizing a definition, you're actually seeing how the word is used.
Like in The Three Little Pigs.
The classic.
That children's story. You instantly know what huff and puff means, not from a dictionary, but because you see the wolf trying to blow down the houses.
Oh, that's a great example. So it's
Yeah.
like you're learning without even realizing it.
And stories don't just teach you words.
What else then?
They show you real, natural ways that people use the language, like idioms and expressions.
Kind of stuff you don't find in textbooks.
Exactly. Think of it this way.
Okay.
You can remember a movie you saw ages ago,
Yeah.
but remembering facts from a textbook.
Ugh, not so much.
Our brains just love stories.
So it's like our brains are programmed for stories.
Totally. Stories make us feel things. They create pictures in our minds.
I'll get that.
And we connect with the character.
That makes the information stick.
Exactly. When you learn new words inside a story, you remember them better.
I never thought about it like that.
The guide suggests starting with simple stories, especially if you're new to English.
Good idea.
Children's books are perfect because they use easy language.
Yeah, and they repeat phrases, which helps you remember.
They recommend starting with The Three Little Pigs, underlining any words you don't know, and then try making your own sentences with them.
Oh, smart. That way you're not just reading, you're actually using the words.
Right, like if you see the word straw, you could write,
The pig built his house out of straw. Something like that.
perfect. Now, another cool thing the guide talks about is using dialogues.
Dialogues.
Those are like little conversations, perfect for practicing speaking.
Oh, like role playing. I can see how that would help.
They build your confidence, especially if you get nervous speaking English out loud.
I know some people who could definitely use that.
The guide gives a super simple example.
Like what?
Like, hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
I'm great. What are you doing this weekend?
I'm going to the park. Want to join? See? Easy peasy.
Exactly. You can practice with a friend or just by yourself.
Just getting used to those basic phrases.
Now, get this.
Hi.
The guide talks about this technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay. I'm intrigued.
It's like this. You listen to a dialogue, and then you repeat it right after, trying to copy the way the person speaks.
Ooh, that sounds challenging but fun.
Think of it as exercise for your tongue.
I like that. So how can people actually do this?
Well, if you listen to podcasts,
Yep.
try shattering parts of your favorite shows.
That's a great idea. You can do it anywhere, anytime.
It's like stealing phrases and pronunciation from native speakers.
Mickey.
This guide is so practical.
And here's the best part. You ready for this?
Hit me.
Stories already have dialogues in them.
It's like a 2-for-1 deal on learning.
Exactly. Think about Little Red Riding Hood.
Grandma, what big eyes you have.
All the better to see you with, my dear. You can even act those out
It makes it so much more fun.
and easier to remember.
This guide gives you tons of places to find stories and dialogues.
Fill me in.
There are YouTube channels with stories for English beginners, apps like Duolingo Stories and Bilingual,
And for bookworms.
classics like Aesop's Fables, or even those special books for English learners.
I love those. They break everything down so clearly.
And don't forget podcasts. There are so many made just for English learners, like ESL Pod and The English We Speak.
It's like this guide knows that everyone learns differently and gives you options.
Exactly. So how do we actually make all of this a habit?
That's the million-dollar question.
Well, the guide says to pick one story or dialogue a day.
Just one. That's doable.
Right. Don't overload yourself. Spend like 10 or 15 minutes on it.
Reading, listening, maybe speaking some parts out loud.
You can even write a short summary afterwards to make sure you understood it.
So even if you're super busy, you can fit this in.
Exactly. It's all about those little chunks of learning adding up.
I love that. But let's be real, learning a language can be tough.
True.
Sometimes you just lose motivation. Any advice on that from the guide?
It says to set small goals, like learning one story per week, instead of aiming for fluency right away.
That sounds a lot less scary.
And reward yourself when you reach those goals.
Like what kind of rewards?
Anything you enjoy. Watching a movie in English or treating yourself to something yummy.
That's a great idea. Makes it feel less like work.
The guide also says to keep track of your progress, maybe by writing down new words and expressions.
So you can see how far you've come.
Exactly. It's not just about remembering the words, but seeing your own achievements.
That's a great motivator.
Yeah.
This guide is full of amazing tips. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
what about the cultural side of stories? How does that play into learning English?
That's a great question. Language and culture are like best friends.
They go hand in hand.
Exactly. So understanding where a story comes from culturally can actually help you understand the language better.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you're reading a story set in, say, Australia.
Okay.
You might see idioms or expressions that Australians use that we don't.
So like learning slang or regional sayings?
Kind of, it helps you sound more natural and avoid confusion.
That's so cool. It's like you're not just learning words, you're learning about people.
Precisely. And don't just passively read or listen. Be an active learner.
How do you mean?
Take notes, highlight things, look up words you don't know, and try retelling the story in your own words.
Like you're teaching it to someone else.
Exactly. And if you have a language partner, talk about the story with them, share your thoughts, maybe even act out some scenes together.
That sounds fun.
Make it interactive. And these days, with all the language learning apps and websites,
There's so many.
it's easier than ever to find stories and dialogues from all over the world.
It's like having the world at your fingertips.
And don't forget about connecting with other language learners online.
Yeah, like in those online communities.
Joining those can be a game changer. You can practice speaking, get tips, and support each other.
It's like you're all in it together.
Now, here's the thing.
What's that?
The guide is clear that there's no one perfect way to learn a language.
Everyone's different.
Exactly. It's about finding what works best for you and your learning style.
Some people are visual learners.
Some learn better by listening.
Some like to study alone.
Others need a group.
The key is to try different things and see what clicks for you.
You've got to find what makes you excited about learning.
Well said. But we got to be honest. Learning a new language is a journey, not a sprint.
It's a marathon.
There will be ups and downs, times you want to quit.
Oh, absolutely.
What does the guide say about that?
It reminds you that every new word, every conversation, every story you understand is a step forward.
So even the small things count.
They all add up. As you keep learning, you'll open up a whole new world.
I love that. So it's about seeing the bigger picture.
Precisely. You'll connect with people from different cultures, see things from new perspectives.
You can expand your horizons in ways you never imagined.
It's truly life-changing.
It really is. But what about those moments of self-doubt, when you feel like you're not making progress?
The guide says it's crucial to be realistic.
What do you mean?
Language learning takes time and effort.
There's no magic solution.
It's like anything else you learn.
Right, you have to put in the work.
So the guide says to be patient with yourself.
Don't expect miracles overnight.
Exactly. Celebrate those little wins and trust the process.
Keep going, even when it's tough.
And remember, everyone learns at their own pace.
Don't compare yourself to others.
Focus on your own journey and your own wins.
And what about when you feel stuck, like you're hitting a wall?
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Like from a tutor.
Or a language exchange partner. Online forums, all those resources are there for you.
It's like you're not alone in this.
There's a whole community of people who are learning languages too.
It's encouraging to know that.
So as you go on this language adventure,
What should we keep in mind?
remember to have fun.
Fun. Really.
Learning a new language is an amazing opportunity.
You can explore new cultures, meet new people.
And see the world in a whole new way.
That's inspiring. So, any final thoughts before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think it comes down to this. Be curious, be joyful, and be ready for anything.
Be open to new experiences.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
And celebrate how far you've come.
Every step you take brings you closer to fluency.
Well said. The world of language is huge and always changing.
There's always something new to learn.
I love that. So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep having fun.
The rewards are amazing.
We've covered a lot today.
We have the power of stories and dialogues, finding your own learning style.
And being consistent, even when it's challenging.
Don't forget the cultural side of things, too.
So the main takeaways are,
Start small, stay consistent, and most importantly, enjoy the ride.
absolutely. We'll be back for the next part of our deep dive where we'll explore even more.
Can't wait to continue this conversation.
Until then, happy learning, everyone.
See you next time.
And now for something completely different.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
We're going to delve into the idea of setting realistic expectations.
Ah, that's crucial.
It's so easy to get excited about learning a new language and think you'll be fluent in like a week.
We've all been there.
But language learning, like anything worth doing, it takes time, dedication, real effort.
It's like learning an instrument or a new sport.
Exactly. You wouldn't expect to be a concert pianist after just a few piano lessons.
Or a pro athlete after a couple weeks of practice.
The guide really stresses this idea of being patient with yourself, being kind to yourself.
We need that reminder sometimes.
We do. Progress happens gradually, and there'll be times you feel stuck or frustrated.
It's all part of the journey.
So any tips from the guide on how to deal with those moments of self-doubt?
One big one is to focus on the small wins.
Like what?
Instead of thinking about how much you still have to learn, celebrate what you've already achieved.
I like that. Celebrate the small victories.
Maybe you finally nailed that grammar rule that was giving you trouble.
Or you had a conversation with a native speaker and actually understood them.
Or you figured out that idiom that's been driving you crazy.
Those are all reasons to celebrate.
Exactly. Shift your focus from what you haven't done to what you have.
And recognize that every step forward, even a tiny one, is still progress.
It's all about perspective.
It really is. And you know what else is super important?
What's that?
Remembering that everyone learns at their own pace.
No, that's so key.
Comparing yourself to others is just a recipe for feeling bad.
Especially in today's world with social media and everything.
Everyone's always showing off their perfect lives.
But language learning isn't a competition.
It's your own personal journey.
Focus on your own progress. Celebrate your own achievements, and you'll get there.
I love that. It takes the pressure off.
And if you ever find yourself struggling or feeling lost,
What should we do?
don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Who should we reach out to?
There are so many people and resources out there, tutors, language exchange partners, online forums.
There are even whole communities dedicated to language learning.
You're not alone in this.
It's good to know there's support out there.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, any final words of wisdom?
What's the big takeaway?
I think it's this. Approach language learning with curiosity, with joy.
Like an adventure.
Exactly. Be open to the unknown. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and celebrate your wins.
Every step you take, you're getting closer to fluency.
The world of language is huge, and it's always changing.
So the learning never really stops.
There's always something new to discover, a new story to tell, a new conversation to have.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep having fun.
The rewards are worth it.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into language learning.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned some valuable tips and feel inspired to keep going on your language journey.
We'll see you next time.
Happy learning, everyone.
You know something that really stood out to me in this guide? It's how much it talks about making learning personal.
Oh, yeah, tailoring it to you.
Exactly. Choosing stories you're actually interested in, not just random ones.
It makes such a difference. It's like forcing yourself to eat broccoli versus having a delicious dessert.
I love that analogy.
When you're hooked on a story, you almost forget you're learning.
Because you're so caught up in what's happening.
Right. It's not like you're just memorizing words, you're living the story.
And you want to know what happens next. Which means you're engaged with the language.
And the guide mentions that stories and dialogues aren't just for beginners either,
That's right.
even if you're more advanced.
They can still help you so much.
How so?
Think about it. Stories can help you learn new vocabulary, make your grammar even better,
Oh, I see.
and even help you speak more naturally like a native speaker.
So it's like you're always improving no matter what level you're at.
Exactly. Now, something else that popped out at me in this guide is how it talks about culture.
Oh yeah, the cultural side of things.
It's really important.
It is. Language and culture are like two sides of the same coin.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Understanding the culture behind a story can really deepen your understanding of the language itself.
Right. Imagine you're reading a story from another country and you come across some saying that people in that country use all the time.
An idiom. Or maybe some slang.
Exactly. Learn those little things helps you sound more natural.
And it helps you avoid misunderstandings.
It's like getting a secret peek into another culture.
Through their language.
It makes learning so much more fun and interesting.
I agree. The guide also talks about being an active learner.
Oh yeah, not just passively reading or listening.
So how do we do that? What does it say?
Well, it says, instead of just reading or listening, we should try taking notes, highlighting key phrases.
Oh, I do that sometimes.
Look up words you don't know and even try to retell the story in your own words.
Like you're summarizing it for someone?
Exactly. And if you're working with a language partner,
Uh-huh.
talk about the story together, share your thoughts, maybe even act out parts of it.
Make it come alive.
Exactly. And with all the tech we have now, all the apps and websites,
It's amazing how much is out there.
it's like having a whole library of stories and dialogues at your fingertips. And a lot of those apps have interactive exercises, quizzes, even ways to record yourself speaking.
Whoa, that's high tech.
It's like having your own personal language tutor.
That's pretty cool.
And speaking of connecting with others,
Yeah.
the guide also highlights how important it is to connect with other language learners online.
Oh yeah, those online communities are great.
They can be super motivating. You can practice speaking, share tips, and support each other.
It's like having a whole cheerleading squad for your language learning journey.
Exactly. You realize you're not alone in this.
There are others going through the same struggles, celebrating the same victories.
Now, here's something really important that the guide emphasizes.
Okay, what's that?
There's no single right way to learn a language.
Everyone learns differently, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about finding what works for you, what fits your learning style.
Some people like visuals, some like audio, some need a quiet space, some need to be around others.
It's a buffet of learning styles.
I love that analogy.
You've got to experiment and find what makes you excited to learn. Now, we also have to remember,
What's that?
learning a language is a journey, not a sprint.
It takes time.
It's a marathon.
There will be times when you're frustrated, times when you want to give up.
Oh, absolutely.
What does the guide say about dealing with those moments?
It reminds you that every new word, every conversation, every story you understand is a victory.
Even the small steps count.
They all add up. And as you learn more and more, you'll start to open up so many possibilities.
Like what kinds of possibilities?
You'll be able to connect with people from different cultures, see the world in new ways.
Travel to new places, maybe even live in another country someday.
It can truly change your life.
Wow, that's amazing. But what about those times when we doubt ourselves? When we feel like we're not making any progress?
Oh, the guide says it's so important to be realistic.
Realistic. How do you mean?
Learning a language takes real effort, it takes time, and it takes dedication.
There's no quick fix.
Exactly. It's like anything else you want to get good at, you have to put in the work.
So no shortcuts?
The guide encourages us to be patient with ourselves, to not expect miracles overnight,
To celebrate the little wins along the way.
and to trust that with consistent effort, you will make progress.
That's so encouraging.
And remember, everyone learns at their own pace. Don't compare yourself to others.
Focus on your own journey, your own achievements, and you'll get there.
And if you're ever feeling stuck or lost, don't be afraid to reach out for help.
There are lots of people who can help.
Tutors, language exchange partners, online communities, they're all there to support you.
You don't have to do this alone.
So, as you continue on your language adventure,
What should we always keep in mind?
remember to have fun. Learning a language is an incredible opportunity.
It really is.
You can explore new cultures, meet new people, see the world in a whole new light.
It can open up so many doors.
So, any final thoughts before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Yeah, what are the key takeaways we should leave our listeners with?
Well, first and foremost, language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
It takes time.
You need patience, you need persistence, and you need passion for the language.
You gotta love it.
And it's so important to find ways to learn that work for you, that fit your style.
Whether it's stories, dialogues, apps, online communities, or all of the above.
The key is to create a learning experience that's both effective and enjoyable.
Make it fun. And remember, the rewards of learning a new language are immense.
They really are. Fluency opens up so many doors for personal growth, professional opportunities, cultural enrichment, and connecting with people from all over the world.
It's truly an enriching experience.
It really is. And I think that leads us perfectly to our final thoughts on this whole topic.
Okay, I'm ready. We've talked about stories and dialogues, consistency, finding your own learning style.
We've discussed the cultural aspects of language and how to overcome challenges with a positive mindset.
But there's one more crucial element that the guide emphasizes, and it's a great way to wrap up this part of our deep dive. What do you think?
You got it.
It's all about setting realistic expectations.
Oh, that's so true. It's tempting to think you'll be fluent right away.
Like in a few weeks, bam,
Oh.
I'm fluent.
I've definitely been there. But just like anything else worth learning,
Yeah,
language learning takes time and effort. You got to be dedicated.
It's like learning to play a musical instrument or a new sport or anything really.
Exactly. You can't expect to be a concert pianist after a couple of lessons, right?
No way.
And this guide really stresses that, being patient with yourself, being kind to yourself.
We're often our own worst critics.
True. And it's okay to progress slowly. There will be times when you hit a plateau.
Or feel frustrated.
It's all part of the process.
So what does the guide say about how to handle those moments when you start doubting yourself?
One thing it suggests is to focus on celebrating the little wins.
The small victories.
Exactly. Instead of always thinking about how much you still have to learn,
Right.
celebrate what you've already achieved.
Well, I like that. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by everything you don't know yet,
You focus on the things you've already mastered.
like maybe you finally got that grammar rule down that was tripping you up,
Or you had a conversation with a native speaker and actually understood what they were saying.
or maybe you finally figured out that idiom that's been bugging you forever.
Exactly. Those are all big wins.
I never thought of it that way. So shift your focus from what you haven't accomplished to what you have.
And recognize that every step forward, even a small one, means you're making progress.
I love that. It's all about perspective.
And you know what else is super important?
What's that?
Remember that everyone learns at their own pace.
Oh, that's so important.
Comparing yourself to others is just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Especially these days with social media, it's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves.
Everyone's always highlighting their successes,
Yeah.
but language learning isn't a competition.
It's a personal journey.
Focus on your own path, your own goals, and you'll get there. And remember, if you're ever feeling lost or stuck or like you're not making progress,
It happens to all of us.
don't be afraid to ask for help. There are tons of resources out there.
Like what?
Tutors, language exchange partners, online communities.
All those people are there to support you.
You don't have to do this alone.
It really does help to know you're not the only one going through this.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into language learning,
What are some key takeaways we can leave our listeners with?
approach language learning with a sense of curiosity, with joy, with a willingness to try new things.
Be adventurous.
Exactly. Don't let fear of making mistakes hold you back. Celebrate all your successes, no matter how small.
Every step you take is a step closer to fluency.
And remember, the world of language is vast and always changing, so the learning never really stops.
There's always something new to discover.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun.
Because the rewards of learning a new language are incredible.
They are. You can connect with people from all over the world, see the world in new ways, maybe even live in another country someday.
The possibilities are endless.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into language learning.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you,
We hope you've gained some valuable insights.
and that you feel inspired to continue your language learning journey.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Until then, happy learning, everyone.